will absolutely lie about an injury, an illness, and especially an addiction before they trap you. And I can't tell you how common this is. I know so many women who ended up with men who had serious addictions, but these men hid it. A lot of times they'll just be like, oh, I used to, but they didn't. It's not past tense. Sometimes they'll just hide it altogether. Now, I know I'm going to give you some examples in a second, but I know it might be like, well, how could they hide that? Come on. Have you ever known an addict? Addicts are amazing at lying and hiding. Okay? Have to be. It's a survival mechanism. Nobody would date a man who was drinking himself to oblivion every night and slowly dying. That man is not dateable. And yet they still pull girlfriends somehow. I'm telling you, they lie. So, okay, let me give you an example. There's one of my friends was kind of seeing this guy, and he definitely had drinking problems and all that stuff, right? And it progressively was getting worse. And so his parents sent him to rehab. Maybe it's not even the first time. They literally sent him to another town to get away from people here that he partied with. Because, it is hard for addicts to get out of that when their entire social network is around that, right? And by the way, don't think that I don't have empathy for addicts. I have struggled with my own addictions. I have known people who've died from it. I have loved so many addicts in my life and still love addicts. But I also do not want them slowly or quickly unaliving women because of our role in enabling them and our codependent need to take care of them and save them. And all they do is ruin our lives in the process, and they don't actually get better. They get worse because of us. So, just to get that out there. So this guy moves to another town, gets sober, more or less, I guess, for a while. And then he meets a girl, and he starts dating this girl. And she's older than him, and he's super hot. And she is an immigrant from, another European country. She has her own apartment. She's building a life for herself in a new country. And anybody who's ever done that, it takes years to do that, to build a life, a job, friends, community, then the language barrier, the cultural barrier, right? It's hard enough to make friends as an adult when you don't actually feel like a freak because you can't speak the language the best and everything's different, right? And she had an amazing apartment, and this is key, okay? In France, it is so hard to get an apartment. Even French people have a hard time getting an apartment because you have to have a garant, okay? Me and my husband had to have his parents sign a garant, just to rent. Okay? It's insane. We both had jobs. We had income. We had bank statements. We had everything. And they always make you get a garant. So as for foreigners, right? Immigrants, even students coming here part-time, they have to hire some garant company. It's crazy. It's so hard to get a good apartment because of this. Even when you are married to a literal Frenchman, they're still like, I don't know. And that's partly because landlords don't have as much power here. In the wintertime, they can't kick you out. If you have children, they can't kick you out. They can't kick you out. So they are very picky about who they put in their place. Understandably so. Yay, tenants' rights. But also it makes it really hard to get an apartment. This woman was living her best life in France, right? And then this hot addict enters her life, tells her that, he's sober now. It's a thing of the past until it's not. Starts drinking again, slowly starts using again, and gets her into it for the first time in her life. Now she's doing it. She's doing and all this stuff she'd never done because these men will talk you into it. They don't want to be alone when they do this stuff. So they'll either go hang out with their friends who do it and leave you at home so you can work and keep things together, or they'll rope you into it too so they feel better about themselves. Because everything for men is about making themselves feel better, especially if they're in a bad place and they're insecure and and they hate themselves, which most men do because they won't do the hard work, okay? So he convinces her to move out of her apartment and get an apartment with him. And they find a new apartment, they put a deposit on it, but they have to do, they both need both incomes for this new, nicer, bigger apartment. So she gives up her old apartment, done, and is about to move in with him. And the day before they're supposed to move in, he breaks up with her. He breaks up with her. This woman is now, was living her best life. I think she's my age, right? And building a new life. Now she's got a drug problem. She's homeless because I'm sure she has some sort of savings, but maybe not if she's been dating this dude, because he's probably a hobosexual who is probably stealing from her, using her money, definitely coasting on her coattails, and daddy's going to come in and swoop in and save him, but he's not going to save her. And that's the thing. A lot of these men, maybe they have parents that enable them, or they have access to some sort of resources that'll come in and continue to enable them, but they will not benefit the women who date them. Those women are screwed, even if you're married to them. This man broke her heart, gave her, a drug problem. She has no home. She probably has destroyed so much of her life. I can't imagine. It was so hard for me to get my apartment when I got here. And that's all gone because I'm dating the wrong dude. I have another friend, dated a man with 4 children. She had 1 child, very successful woman. This guy, she made way more money than him. They get a big old house. Now she's taking care of 5 children, funding their college, their food, their all this stuff. You know what I mean? This man, forgot to tell you, has not an opiate addiction. In and out of rehab. These men, they hide their addictions for a reason. They need you to fund them. They need you to call in for work for them. They need you to do so they can keep running from themselves into their escapism and their self-destruction because they hate themselves so much, but they will not stop and do the hard work of looking at why they hate themselves, why they have to escape themselves. And I do understand addiction, so part of it is a physical thing. But addiction is not just the physical, it is the mental part. It drives them to need to do this thing. And until they do some serious work on themselves, whether it be therapy or, a group or spiritual stuff or whatever, it takes so much work. And they don't want to do that. And why would they? Why would they? If they have someone bankrolling their fun, even if their fun is literally killing them. Even the guy I dated a guy long distance for a while. Failed to mention that what destroyed his last relationship was his addiction to... Now, I know that's not really an addiction. You can't be physically addicted to that. But the dude literally lost a 4-year relationship, the biggest one of his life, because he would not give it up. He literally destroyed our relationship because that was one of the things. But it wasn't even about this. It was about the fact he'd never been to therapy and never dealt with his crap. So even if it's not an addiction you're dealing with, men who are obsessed with escapism, whether it's, drinking or drugs or climbing, adrenaline junkie, gaming, whatever it is, escapism, these men will ruin your life because so many of them are gold diggers, soul diggers, as one of my commenter said once, and I will never, it's a perfect word. They're vampires, they're parasites, and they have the audacity to constantly label us as gold diggers, needy, blah, 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 blah. When I swear to God, the only reason why so many of these men aren't dead is because of us. But in the end, it doesn't actually, we don't keep these men alive. We just keep perpetuating them, staying in a constant state of childhood, right? So that they never have to face themselves. They never have to grow up. They definitely don't ever learn how to love or be loved. And they ruin our lives in the process. They ruin them, especially financially. These men will drain you emotionally, worrying about them all the time. And the lies. If you don't think they're going to lie about an affair, if they're already lying about drinking and other stuff, you got another thing coming, because they will. And the more they lie and the more they take advantage of you, the more they resent you. They resent you, not themselves. Because looking at how much they hate themselves is too painful for them. So they blame you for all their problems, even though you are literally doing nothing but giving to them. And that's your own codependency, right? So many women didn't even know what codependency was until they fell into a relationship with an addict. And now they know. It in and of itself is like a drug. We become addicted to taking care of these men because we've also been conditioned to see men as needing us with their mommies. And without us, what would they do? Well, not our problem.